Hi, and welcome to the Notepad Show. In today's episode, which is sort of a continuation of last week's episode, I'm going to be showing an alternative way of rendering oceans without going to Solaris. So why don't we get started right away? A little recap. In last week's episode on ocean shading, we used Solaris to render oceans via a shader, where we have ocean spectrum and ocean spectrum mask driving displacement at the shader level through Material X. And that is how we render oceans. And that is the optimum recommended way as of 2025. This is the default for Karma. It is how it's expected to be rendered in RenderMan. But there is another way where you don't have to render oceans via being driven by the shader, by displacement in the shader. We could do it via brute force at the geo level. And I'm going to show that right now. Okay. I'm going to bring up... it's the same scene from last week, but I'm going to be paying attention more to this remesh to camera node. This is the magic sauce. So remesh to camera will do micropolygon dicing based on the camera in the scene and its frustum. So only where the camera view and the frustum are seen and the field of view is seen will there be subdivisions. Outside of the frustum, not so much. And we can go really far. You can see how much detail there is. It's a lot. And you need this to get the detail of some of the micro detail in the spectrum. You need this. And there is a quality difference as you get further from the camera. And it's a whole algorithm that it's all done with this node. It's just simply a remesh to camera node. This was introduced in 20.5. So this allows you to do micro detail at the geo level. And again, it's required if you want to do it this way. Now, this does not require going out to Solaris. Everything can be done in Houdini. So that means you could use Redshift with this technique, Arnold, of course, RenderMan. And the benefit of RenderMan is you could use PXR Surface and create a water, which is what I did here. Or you could use Llama Dielectric as well. There's a lot of flexibility. But that flexibility comes at a cost. Now, from a quality, let me go over the quality first. This is using last week's method, and this is all done in Solaris through the methods we talked about last week. And this is the same where I just apply a PXR surface, which is the water preset in the preset browser. And of course, it looks different. The water looks different. I have the flexibility within Solaris to edit a lot of the parameters to make it look like this, or vice versa. I could make the PXR surface look more like this if I want. The shading is not really the thing to talk about here. It's the fact that this was done through displacement. This was done through actual geo displacement, but displacement at the geo level. This was displacement at the shader level. Okay. I also want to, before I forget, make sure that you guys check out Ryan's tutorial. I'll put a link again in this video to his tutorial. And Ryan goes over a lot of this in this last chapter here. The introduction to ocean spectrums in Houdini rendering. Okay. And the HIP file will include a lot of, it'll include this ocean spectrum. So, okay. All right. Now, with all that said, and having all this flexibility when something's done at the geo level, I can easily apply the water and go to a ROP and render, and all's great in the world. There is a huge downside. That huge downside is the amount of data that gets generated with this method. So when you go to the spectrum, you'll see I put down a file cache node to write out the changes in this geometry. It's a 240 frame animation, so I have 240 frames of individual geo that gets written to. And that is really expensive. It's expensive in calculation because you have to cache it, and that takes time. And then the file size. So we're talking almost 74 gigabytes of data. This is on an ocean that is 100 meters by 100 meters, which is incredibly small. So you can imagine how much data it would be if the ocean were, let's say, 1,000 by 1,000, and that could be required if you were having a moving camera over the ocean, or if there was a use case or a scenario case where you needed a larger ocean. This file size would get out of control. That is why the method I showed last week is the preferred method. I am only showing you this because you might have a use case where you are dealing with a smaller ocean and you're dealing with a render that's not Karma or RenderMan. It's Redshift, Arnold, or some other render, Cycles as an example. Because you could probably take this BGO and feed it into Blender. I don't think Blender can read BGO, but it could certainly read FBX. Again, though, the downside is an immense amount of data and an immense amount of time to convert it. But again, there might be a use case. So I'm showing it. Anyway, I hope that this was informative. I hope that it's understood this is not a recommended method anymore. It is recommended to go through Solaris to do, at least when it comes to Houdini and working with oceans, it is meant to be worked with inside of Solaris through Material X and Material X's displacement capabilities to get your ocean. It's a highly more optimized, and you don't have to deal with the heavy geometry. All right. So thank you so much for watching. This was a real short one, and have a great week, guys. Bye.